Hi guys. So since it's World Breastfeeding Week, I really want to get the topic of relactating out to everybody that has no idea that it's even possible to do. So I've asked Lucy if she could mention relactating in her video, or a video, doesn't really matter, but relactating, just to get the word out, because I know she has quite a bit of subscribers and I'm not that popular or anything like that. So yeah, so I'm going to be talking about relactating. If that's something that you're interested in, keep watching. I myself was able to successfully relactate, and I pumped for about 7 months, and I also pumped 2.5 months prior to stopping. So due to health problems with my son and personal issues in regards to sexual abuse, I had quite a hard time wanting to nurse. So I ended up opting and pumping, and I pumped for 2.5 months. And with struggling with my postpartum depression, I decided maybe pumping wasn't the best option for myself, because it's a lot of work. Don't take that topic lightly of pumping, as most of you know that have pumped. It is quite time consuming, and you're pretty much strapped to a pump all the time. So I decided to stop, and I don't know if it was the postpartum depression, I don't know what it was, but I ended up feeling so guilty and like such a horrible mother and so on and so forth. So I was thinking, I'm like, hey, maybe I'll try to relactate. And I didn't hear it mentioned before at all. So this was all new to me, and I just tried to look stuff up on the internet, and I was able to find a bit of information about it. And another one of my subscribers actually was able to be successful at relactating. She was able to give me some pointers as well. So here I am making this video to hopefully help those that are interested in wanting to go through that journey of relactating and hopefully be successful with it. And I'm just going to give some tips, what I did to relactate, and hopefully that's something that you can I guess apply to your journey, or so on and so forth. So first off, you'll probably need a very good pump, and I'm talking about either a hospital grade pump or something like a pump and style, but made by Medela. I think the brand, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Amida or something or other. That brand carries a very good high grade pump as well, and that's something that I would really recommend getting, because a really low grade pump like the Harmony or so on and so forth is not going to do the job that it needs to do for relactating. And you need something that's kind of easier too. So I started off with my pump and style, and then I eventually went into renting the Symphony by Medela, and I rented that for I think 3 months, and then I switched back over to my pump and style, and my pump and style worked just as good. So if you have a pump and style or anything equally as good as that pump, you should be good to go. I know pumps are so expensive, but I looked at it as I'd probably be getting my money's worth if I was pumping all the time and feeding my child breast milk versus buying formula. So you kind of have to look at it that way, because I know the price point is quite expensive for pumps. So when you first start off, pumping is the key point in relactating. So you want to be pumping, I'd say anytime you have a chance, pump. It doesn't have to be the 15, 20 minutes of pumping. You can pump for 5 minutes at a time, say 5 minutes every hour or so. I mean, because you're not really producing anything, so you're not going to get anything out, so there's really no point of having it on for 20 minutes. And plus, getting into that routine of pumping, your nipples and your breasts are going to be fairly sore. Well, at least mine were anyways. So and then once you start producing, you can go to the every 2 hours for say 20 minutes, every 3 hours. Just depends on what you feel comfortable doing and what you think will work best for you in your situation. For those that are trying to relactate with a young one, and I'm talking about say 4 weeks old, 2 months old, that type of thing, you can try to get your child back to latch onto you. And it was suggested to me to try to get my son latched back on as like a comfort thing. So like when they're trying to soothe themselves, say with like a pacifier, offer your breast instead, and that might get the whole latching on and getting comfortable with getting back into nursing again. So you can always try that, and that will help with the stimulation and having that skin to skin, and skin to skin contact is very key also for producing breast milk. So that's another thing. And hand expressing after you pump is another thing, because let's face it, a pump won't get out everything like a baby would. So hand expressing usually will get out a little bit more than what a pump would, because I know from when I was pumping, I would pump and finally after like there's nothing else coming out, no drops coming out, I would take the pump off and I'd be able to hand express at least another ounce, ounce and a half. So if you didn't hand express, that ounce, ounce and a half was still left in. So your hand does get tired when you're hand expressing, and I mean, if that's something that will work in your schedule or pumping routine, add that in because it's great. What else? I've made some notes, so I'm kind of looking down so I don't forget anything. If you are trying to get your baby back onto the breast, an SNS or a supplemental nursing system is a good thing to use. So for those that don't know, I will include a link below that will take you to a video that I made in regards to that. And it's just basically a bottle, and you can put whatever liquids you want, your formula or express breast milk in it, and it has some tubes coming out of it that you, once the baby's latched on, you can insert into the side of the mouth. But I've been told that it kind of breaks the latch and it kind of messes things up, and it is kind of hard to use, but once you do get the hang of it, it is pretty simple. I've seen my sister-in-law use it for a few months with my niece, and she was able to get the hang of it after a while with it, and my niece was comfortable with it there. So that's something else that you might want to add into trying to get your child back to the breast, so that they kind of know that there's something coming out and not just nothing's coming out. And again, it will also help to stimulate your nipples and milk production as well. Now, when to pump, I was pumping every 2 hours for 20 minutes, so about 10 minutes on either side of each breast. And when I was pumping, I would hand massage my breasts so that more stuff would come out. I found that works. Or I used to do hand compression, so it would also help get stuff out. So that's another thing. I would switch from side to side, which helps get a lot more out. And I've also pumping in between 1 and 5 a.m. is a good time to pump, because that's when you're known to produce more breast milk. And I mean, I only did it I think twice in that time period, because I felt my sleep was more important than getting that one pumping session in, because my son at the time was very, I don't know how to put it, he was up a lot, so I didn't get very much sleep as it was, so I didn't want to be pumping when I could be sleeping. Which brings me to another thing about producing breast milk. I'm sure most of us know that sleep is very important for producing breast milk, so you want to make sure you're getting as much sleep as possible. And I know everybody says this, but sleep when baby sleeps. I was never able to do that because my son only slept 20 minutes at a time, so I couldn't sleep very much. But if you can get a break and your husband or your significant other can watch your children or child or baby for a little bit while you nap or have at least a couple hours of sleep here and there, it should help tons with producing breast milk. Another thing is in the morning pumping. So I found between 7 and 11 a.m. was when I was also producing a lot more breast milk. So I found that if I pumped more in the morning, it was better. And I also found like when I would go to bed at night and then wake up in the morning, obviously I was engorged. So I would pump on either side like I normally would any other time. But my pump and I don't know, my hand expressing and nothing, it wasn't all coming out. I still felt full afterwards. I knew there was still quite a bit more in there. So I would wait a half an hour to 45 minutes and then pump again, and I would be able to get another, I'm saying, 4 ounces out of my breast. So that's something else to keep in mind, or even for those that pump on a regular basis for their children. Supplements and prescription medication to help with producing breast milk. So we all probably know fenugreek is one herb that helps with producing breast milk. Also, blessed thistle is supposed to be another one that's supposed to help, and it also, blessed thistle and fenugreek together are supposed to work great. I've heard, and I briefly read about a herb called goat's rue, and again, I'll include lots of links down below to different websites and different things that you guys can read up on to educate yourself a little bit more on everything. But that's another herb that I had read about that helped. I never took it personally. I took fenugreek and blessed thistle. And then prescription medications that should help. There's one called domperidone. Now here in Canada, it's quite easy to get. A lot of doctors will prescribe it for you easily, whereas I know in the United States it is quite harder to find, or sometimes even other countries it's harder to find as well. But that's something that you might want to look into and talk to your family doctor about, is domperidone. And I took that and I noticed a great deal of it upped my supply quite a bit, and just depends on the dosage and how much you need to help with producing breast milk. There's another one that that's a prescription, but off the top of my mind I cannot think of the name of it, and I'll include the link down below. Sorry about that. I don't want to say it's Reglan or something or other. That might be totally off. Don't take my word for that. But it might be called that. I'm not 100% sure, but I've heard not so good things about that it does cause depression or something. So these herbs and the prescription drugs, I would highly recommend talking to your family doctor about taking them, just to make sure that it is okay that you can take those herbs. And of course do lots of research for yourself to make sure that's something that you think is right for yourself. Having a lactation consultant or a Relacting League leader help you through the whole relactation process, I think is important as well, especially if you're trying to get your baby to latch back on to the breast and do that whole process over again and nurse. Even just pumping, I find that even them, the knowledge is there. They know resources and where to go about to get certain things. My Relacting League leader was able to give me that supplemental nursing system that I was talking about. She was able to give it to me, or even they should be able to help you figure out where to buy things like that, or to rent pumps, that type of thing, buy pumps. anything along those lines, and even support. They should be able to help you in that direction as well. So that's another thing I would recommend finding. Also support from family and friends. If you want support, I can totally give it and root you on, because let's face it, pumping and relactating is a big, huge journey, and it's very stressful. There is times where you're going to want to give up. There are times where you're going to want to just pick up your pump and throw it against the wall, because I know from my experience, there are times where I just despised my pump, and I did not want to see it ever again, and I hated it, and so on and so forth. But in the end, with producing breast milk, and be able to have that rewarding thing of giving your child your breast milk, it just trumps everything. So yes, a pumping schedule is a good thing to have, I found, and what, like, a rough time of when you want to pump, or how many hours in between each pumping session. And I found once you get your supply going, that's when you kind of can determine when you want to figure out how many hours in between each pumping session you want to do, because you don't want to go too long and then be too engorged, and so on and so forth. So I found every 3 to 4 hours was good. I was doing every 2 hours for, I think, the first month and a half, and that got quite time consuming and quite stressful on myself, and it was taking away time from my son, so I ended up going to 3 to 4 hours in between. So keep that in mind, schedule as well. I don't know if I'm missing anything else in regards to everything, but I was able to, in total, I relactated and pumped for 7 months. My son was never able to latch back on because I started to pump pretty much too late, and he had been on the bottle since about 6 weeks, I want to say. But I relactated for 7 months, and then previously I pumped for 2.5 months. So in total, that's 9.5 months of pumping. So I'm pretty proud of myself that I was able to do that, and hopefully a lot of you that want to go through the journey of relactating hopefully are as successful. Sorry, so tongue-tied. It's late at night. Successful with relactating as I was, and if anyone possible that is seeing this and can make a video about relactating, or even link my video just to get the word out so that a lot of mothers know that it is possible, and if they want to do it, they can do it. So feel free to do so. But if you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to leave them below. If you want to send me a personal message, feel free to do that as well. If you want to, I don't get, for some reason I don't get notifications when people send me messages through YouTube, so I try to check it, but sometimes I don't check it often, and your message will be sitting there for a while. So if you want me to reply ASAP, add me onto my YouTube, Facebook, and I can reply back faster because I see it and it's there when I go on there, and it notifies me. So I will include what my YouTube, Facebook is down below, and then you guys can add me if you feel free to, if you want to. So that is that, and hopefully this helps a lot of women that are wanting to do it, and hopefully it spreads the word more about the whole relactating thing. So anywho, I am going to go, and hopefully you guys are having a great evening, day, whatever time it is there, wherever you guys are. So I will talk to you later. Bye, guys.